Hi, I'm Nicole, and I wanted to talk today about how to navigate your anxiety. A lot of people come into my office and they have learned several coping skills how to manage anxiety. Coping skills like breathing techniques, distraction techniques, ways to recognize their anxiety as it's coming up and to do something different to shift their mindset. Cognitive behavioral skills, which are great, noticing what their mind is telling them and challenging that mindset. All of these are really good ways to manage anxiety when it pops up, but they don't really seem to make anxiety go away long term. A different way that I like to teach people how to navigate their anxiety is to work with your anxiety as opposed to fighting against it. A great way to do this is start to see your anxiety as something that's trying to help you. Anxiety is designed in the body to keep you alive. When it pops up, it's telling you, hey, there's a threat, and I need you to manage this threat. I need you to make me feel safe. I need you to get the threat to go away. I need you to fight the threat. And what your body starts to do is get a lot of energy in order to navigate that. Your adrenaline, your cortisol, it starts pumping through your veins. Your heart starts beating really fast in order to get all of that through your veins into your muscles. You start to breathe a little bit quicker. You start to feel maybe shaky, a little bit tense. All of that is your body's defense mechanism, and it's not a bad thing. When we start to look at it as something natural that our body is doing, it's much, much easier to manage and to work with instead of trying to get upset with it and forcing it to go away. When our body is trying to send us these alarms and give us this energy, there are a lot of things we can do to calm the system down. If your body is saying, hey, listen to me, there's this threat, and you're saying, go away, there's no threat, it's just going to activate more. So, a lot of people, when they try to get their anxiety to go away, it starts to get worse. And then they start to get anxious about feeling anxious, and then it just spirals into a panic attack or panic disorder. When anxiety presents itself in our bodies, it's telling us there's a threat. It's saying, hey, pay attention to me. I need you to respond to this threat. I need you to run away. I need you to protect us as in the anxiety and your body. Sometimes I like to refer to anxiety as a separate entity. It's just easier to navigate that way. If you see it as this part of you that's trying to protect you, then your core self can respond to that part, and you can kind of interact differently than saying like, I am anxious, I am anxiety. Now, if you have anxiety saying, I want this body to be alive and protected, and you have you saying, stop, go away, all that's going to do is make the anxiety activate a little bit more. And then what happens is you have this fight inside your body of trying to get your anxiety to go down while it's trying to get heard. A different way to respond is to hear your anxiety. Have an inner dialogue. If your anxiety is saying there's a threat, start to scan the room and look around for what your body or your anxiety might think is a threat. Is it a trauma trigger? Is it something that is tied to a past memory? Is it the fear of social rejection? Is it the fear of losing a friendship? There are a lot of different things based on your history that your body might see as a threat to your whole system, or might see as something that it needs to protect you from, or this something that can kill you. And if you're able to recognize what that is, you can say either, yes, this is a huge threat. Yes, my friend is pulling away and I need to respond to that. Or you can say, no, this is just my anxiety telling me something or over exaggerating something because of a past experience. And actually, there's no real threat here. And when you're able to challenge the threat in those moments, then you and your anxiety can have a little bit of a dialogue where you're saying, hey, this is actually okay, we're safe. You can start to do things to ease your anxiety, like soothing techniques, make your body feel safe, do things that feel comforting to you. Challenging cognitively can do a little bit as far as helping your body calm down, but really you want to get into the physical part of anxiety. Physical anxiety is your fight or flight system kicking in. It's making your heart beat fast. It's making your breath go a little bit faster. It's giving you that extra energy in your whole system. So what you can do first is activate your breath. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Breathe out for 8 seconds. What that does, and when you're breathing out longer than you're breathing in, it starts to turn on your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your calm down part of your body. It tells your body, hey, we're safe, it's okay. It might feel hard to do because you're kind of fighting what your body's trying to do, which is get you extra energy, but it's starting to tell your body to calm down. Some other things you could do are rhythmic movement, so either crossing your arms and tapping, creating some rhythm, swaying, creating rhythm. If you have more time doing things like yoga or different running, different rhythmic physical things that you can do, those things kind of start to soothe the body. It's a very natural way to soothe the body. It's things that kids do or babies do. And when you do that, it starts to tell your whole body you're safe, you can be calm, and it lets the anxiety know that it's okay to go away right now. Another thing to be aware of is if your body is telling you about a threat that is real, then you don't necessarily want to get that anxiety to go away. Anxiety can be very helpful when it's not overacting. So an example I used earlier was if your body is reacting to a threat in a friendship, either maybe somebody's stepping on your boundaries and your anxiety is activating. If you ignore that, then that's just going to continue this allowance of what your body's trying to prevent. So when your body is activating and saying, hey, something's going on here, this person is kind of pushing some boundaries, you can notice, yeah, that is a threat, and then take an appropriate response. Some responses, when we look at the fight or flight system, that doesn't necessarily look like attacking somebody or running away. It can be like having the energy to have a conversation, a scary conversation about boundaries. It can be giving you power in your body to stick up for yourself. It can be giving you the focus to think about what you want to say. Anxiety does a lot for our bodies that's not necessarily bad when it's being used appropriately. One big thing that we work on in therapy, or that I work on with people in therapy, is discovering the threats that don't really match reality. And that there's a lot of work that can be done in that. A lot of times our anxiety is overacting, and that's why it has such a bad rep, because it's telling us that there's danger when there's no danger, and we're confused about why we're having these reactions. We're having our body is shaking, our body is making us feel fearful or getting us so we can't speak. There's a lot of things that happen when we're anxious that it's your body going into almost a survival mode, but you're not in a situation where you need to survive. Well, we always need to survive, but you're not in a situation where you need your body to kick into defense mode. And so when we do therapy, it can help you discover what those triggers are and why your body has that response. There's almost always something that we can tie it to. So if I'm very scared of public speech, I've probably had some history of some sort of rejection or social rejection, or just messages telling me that it's not okay to be imperfect. Things that would make rejection seem life or death. If I'm afraid of airplanes, I've probably had some sort of experience either with somebody in my life, a parent, or somebody being scared of airplanes, a negative experience on an airplane, or even just watching TV or seeing something where my brain learned airplanes are scary. I mean, logically, if we think about it, airplanes are kind of scary because you're up high, and it would make sense for your body to react to that. But when we're not able to combat it with our logic, then there's usually something deeper we can explore. And those are just some basic examples. There's definitely a lot more in regards to relationship that people will get anxious about. And it doesn't really make sense in the present day. So if you've had past relationships where you experienced verbal or emotional abuse or neglect, then going into new relationships, you're going to be extra sensitive. Your body's going to be extra sensitive to perception that those things might be happening again. And that's just your body's way of trying to protect you and prevent you from being in the same situation you were in before. So again, it's not something you have to be mad at when you're thinking about your anxiety. A lot of people are mad at their anxiety and they hate it, they want it to go away. But if you see it as this is something that's trying to help, it's just overacting, then it helps you navigate it a little bit more peacefully. The last thing I wanted to mention in regards to responding to your anxiety differently is the idea that the cognitive part of our brain, when we're responding to anxiety, is not always attached to the physical part in the way that we want it to. So some people are able to notice when the anxiety is coming up in their body. Cognitively, they say, hey, I'm not in danger. They challenge whatever the threat is. This is not, this person that's responding to me is not the person that abused me in the past. Or they're able to have some cognitive restructuring in those moments where, and it helps them. However, if your physical part of your body is responding to the trauma and it's not really responding to your cognitive attempts to calm it down, then there are some different techniques that you might find helpful to manage the physical anxiety. I've worked with several people who have worked through their trauma history. They've talked about their stories. They know why they feel anxious, and cognitively, they're there. They're able to say, I know that this isn't a present anxiety, but my body feels bad anyway. And it does. It feels very uncomfortable to be anxious, especially if you know that it's not necessary in that moment. So some work you can do around that is managing and working out some of the physical anxiety or physical responses. A lot of that work can look like doing yoga to become more comfortable with physical sensations, doing meditations to become more comfortable with physical sensations. But the important thing to note is in the yoga and the meditations, the goal is not to tell your body not to feel that way. The goal is to become comfortable with the sensations so that when they come, you can just notice them and they pass. A lot of people, they'll start to get that anxious feeling either in they feel their heart racing, or they feel their arms shaking, or their legs go numb, some of their first responses to anxiety. And then it almost feels like a full panic. Oh my gosh, it's happening, my anxiety is coming back, I can't do anything to stop it. And while that might be true, that your anxiety is responding in your body and you're cognitively telling yourself all the things you're supposed to say, and you're doing your breathing techniques and it's not working, there's a lot of power that can come from being okay with what's happening in your body. My heart's racing. Yes, it's uncomfortable and it's going to pass. It's happening because my body's responding to a trauma trigger. My legs are numb or my arms are numb. Yes, it's uncomfortable and it's going to pass. I'm not dying. It's happening because when I feel anxious, the blood starts to go to more central parts of our body to protect that, and you have less circulation in your limbs. I'm starting to feel dissociated. Oh my gosh, it's happening. Yes, it's uncomfortable, and eventually I always come back to the present. I can use my mindfulness techniques. Right now my brain wants to dissociate from reality because it feels scared. So there's all these things your body does during an anxiety episode, either a panic attack or even just regular anxiety, that it makes sense biologically why it's doing that. It feels very uncomfortable and it will pass. So even if we can't stop it, there's a lot of power that can come from being okay with what's happening, learning that the sensations, as uncomfortable as they are, they will pass. I will survive it. It does not mean I'm dying. It does not mean I'm having a heart attack. And I think there's a lot of recovery that can come in that moment. And you'll often find that the more you become okay with those sensations, the less they'll amplify. If you start to get anxious about the sensations, they're going to get intense and intense until it kind of burns out. But when you become more comfortable with them, it starts to go away a little bit faster. There are some tips and tricks that can kind of activate the physical part of the brain quickly. A couple of them that I like to share with people. One, I already shared the rhythmic breathing, the rhythmic movement. Another one is if you're having an anxiety attack, you can splash cold water in your face. I recognize that not everybody's going to be in a place where they can just splash cold water on their face, but if you are, jump in the cold shower, splash cold water. It activates something called the diving reflex. I'm not an expert on the diving reflex. I've watched several videos on it, so I encourage you to look it up, or I can link them in my description of the video. But it for some reason it snaps your body into a different reflex than your anxiety, and it's able to stop that intense panic attack feeling. Another thing that I like to share with people is that when you have anxiety and you haven't discharged the energy, anxiety pumps adrenaline, cortisol through your system. And a lot of times when people experience something that startles them, they notice they'll shake, right? So your body's shaking, and what's happening there is it's trying to get out this extra energy. You can manage that. So if you notice something happened that startled you, and you have either you're starting to shake, or you haven't discharged the energy, do something that gets rid of the energy. Do some jumping jacks, some push-ups, jog around the block, something that gets out that energy for you. A lot of times people go straight to calming down the system, which it's not a bad thing to do, but if the energy is already pulsing through your body, it's just going to kind of get stuck there. So it's good to try and discharge it where you can. So that's all I wanted to talk about today when talking about navigating your anxiety. It's not about hating the anxiety or getting it to go away. It's about noticing that it's something that's trying to help you, and you can flow with it and navigate it and work with it instead of fighting against it. And that should feel much more peaceful. I'm going to link a couple of books in the description of my video, and they're books that I pulled a lot of this information from. I encourage everybody to learn as much as they can about their own body, their own system, in order to navigate a little bit better. If you feel like there are some trauma triggers and things that you are not sure where your anxiety stem from, I encourage you to go to therapy, really get to the root of the why behind what your body is doing, and it can help give you a lot of power in navigating that. Thanks for coming to my quick talk on anxiety today. I'll see you next time.